Recording.
Thanks for coming and thanks for watching. Hello, my name is Nathaniel Vereen, and today I'm going to present a PowerPoint in reference to juvenile justice titled Underage Punishment. Basically, my research question is, should juveniles be tried and punished as adults? The juvenile age, when I consist of juvenile for this study, is under the age of 16 originally, but I had to span out because the age varies in the United States as far as juveniles across the United States. It goes as high up as 19 years old, and in some states it goes pretty low, and we'll get into it once I move along. But pretty much all the examples that I'm going to provide for this study is under the age of 18 years of age. Personally, I feel that juveniles should not be charged as adults, tried and punished as adults. If you can probably make out this picture I have here, and it's probably hard to see, so I'll just read it out. This is just one of the big major controversies throughout the United States, or throughout this country rather. Basically, you have one side that says, yes, a crime is a crime, no matter what the age of the criminal. He needs to be punished. And then the other side, you have, no, a child's mental abilities are not fully developed. He or she should not be punished in the same manner as an adult. So basically, which takes me to the statement of the problem. Juveniles, or teenagers, or teens rather, youth offenders are being punished aggressively when they are tried as adults. And I'll elaborate more on that in the upcoming slides. Basically, teenagers are losing their lives when they receive life sentences and death penalty when they're tried as adults. So basically, I'm going to take a mixed method approach, which I'll touch on later on in this presentation. And what I plan to get out of this, I just want to learn what is the best possible way to deal with youth offenders. And I don't feel that trying them as adults is the right way to go. So basically, my topic is underage punishment, trying juveniles as adults, like I mentioned previously in the previous two slides. And basically, the focus of the juvenile system should consist of rehabilitation versus punishment. And so basically, my driving theory is focus on rehabilitation. And that's what we should focus on when we're dealing with the youth. We shouldn't just give up on it. And I think it's a more effective approach because it gives just a young child a second chance in reality. Like I previously mentioned, that I'll touch on the mixed method approach a little further. Basically, the methods that I used for this study is narrative, slight comparative. I originally wanted to use quantitative, but I had problems, basically quantitative, and I wanted to use quantitative also, but I've had problems finding raw numbers, which takes me to one of my limitations. I also used 3 to 4 of the variables, which was demographics, race, age, to conduct my study. Basically, in my findings and analysis section, I provide reading some of my articles and doing my internet search, found out, and then I will touch on these all individually. I'm just going to go over the rough draft of it. Basically, the safety of society due to hyperviolent tendencies when teens are tried as adults and released back into society. You also develop repeat offenders. The suicidal thoughts or suicidal rate is higher in juveniles, and which once again I'll touch on these in a minute. Basically, the rehabilitation system is not 100%. The cognitive development is just not there as a teen. And we will discuss the minimum age for a child or children being tried as adults. So basically, on the first subject of the framework, discovered by an article that hyperviolent tendencies and safety of the public is jeopardized when juveniles are charged as adults and then released into our societies. And it is due to the Prison Rape Elimination Act of 2003 statistics states that juveniles are more likely to be sexually abused in prison, and it usually takes place in the first 48 hours. And many are made sex slaves throughout their time as in the adult prisons before they're released out. And that contributes to their hyperviolent tendencies and make them more aggressive in public and in societies. T.J. Parcell of the New York Times, who also served time in an adult prison when he was a juvenile, said that he was sexually abused also. And T.J. Parcell basically stated that the crime rate will elevate because when the teens come out, or the juveniles come out of these adult prisons, basically the adult prisons are making them smarter criminals. And on top of that, just making them more aggressive citizens. They learn how to commit crimes and learn how to get away with it, basically, in some sense. So, this is a bar graph I have, basically that states juveniles that were arrested in juvenile facilities. This is the Juvenile Delinquent Center, and there's juveniles that are arrested in adult prisons. Juveniles that were arrested in adult prisons are 35% more likely to commit a crime and re-enter prison. All right, and this is a bar graph that I also found on the internet, and this is basically a bar graph of the black juvenile population that basically represents approximately 36% of the American juvenile total population. But 83% of the juveniles that are charged in adult courts are minorities. So when we get to the suicidal thoughts and we get to this section, basically the juveniles that are housed or charged as adult in adult prisons are more likely to, 36 times more likely to commit suicide. And this is because they're often confined 23 hours of the day, which gives them lack of human interaction and lack of natural light, which increases your chance of committing suicide or suicidal thoughts. So taking the rehabilitation approach is basically telling the juveniles or the youth offenders that we're not giving up on you, we're going to give you another chance. And basically if you try these juveniles as adults and send them to adult prisons and give them life sentences or the death penalty, I can promise that nothing would, the juveniles can produce nothing out of that because they wouldn't have the opportunity to re-enter society or get rehabilitation steps or the rehabilitation that they need to become a civil citizen. And the rehabilitation approach is not 100%, but there are many success stories in which I'm going to show you some examples of. Now, on your left and my right is George Steaney. George Steaney was the youngest person ever to be executed in the 20th century. He was accused of murdering two young ladies, Caucasian females. Although they had no evidence, no confession, he was tried as an adult and he was sentenced to die, and he was electrocuted. And the funny thing about this story, which I'll touch on a little later, is that he was a little small for his age. I think he was under 100 pounds, and also they had to stack books on the electric chair to execute him and try to tie his feet basically in a bow tie like form instead of strapping it in. And in the process of his execution, I think the hood was so big that it flew off and his face was exposed and everything. It was just dreadful. And on your right is a young man named Jim Walcott, who was 15 years old, shot and killed his mother and father. He was sent to a juvenile delinquency center. I think he did juvenile life, if I'm not mistaken. He later on got out of the juvenile delinquency center, and he is currently a psychology professor at a university in Texas. On the left is Kentrell Jackson. I don't know if you heard of this story. Kentrell Jackson basically was hanging out with a group of friends who decided to go and rob a video store. Although one of his friends had a firearm, and to make a long story short, the cashier or the clerk was shot and killed by Kentrell Jackson's friend. And although Kentrell Jackson didn't have a weapon at all, he did not pull the trigger. He was tried as an adult also. He received a life sentence at the age of 14, a life sentence without parole. On the right is Raphael Johnson, who shot and killed one of his classmates when he was in school at the age of 17, if I'm not mistaken. And basically he was sent to a juvenile delinquency center versus an adult youth center. Mr. Johnson later on completed the juvenile delinquency program, the rehabilitation program, went on to earn a bachelor's degree as well as a master's degree, and now he is currently running a police watch center in Chicago. And these are two actors that had early run-ins with the law as youth juveniles, Danny Trejo and Charles Dutton, familiar faces. Is it Trace? Trejo. Danny Trejo. And Charles Dutton. Trejo, I think, had an attempted murder charge. He was sent to a delinquency center. And they both went on. Charles Dutton had a manslaughter charge at the age of 16. They both were sent to juvenile delinquency centers. They both ran into trouble afterwards. But the point is, they got their second chance, and they made the best of it. And this is Mark Wahlberg. This is a pretty popular actor right now, who received an attempted murder charge when he was just 15 years old. He took a hook and he beat a North Korean refugee with a hook and left him blind for the rest of his life. And he was sent to a juvenile delinquency center, received his rehabilitation, and made the best of his situation. So basically, getting on to the cognitive development, those are my features. Cognitive development stage, according to the academic.edu, the human brain is not fully developed until the age of 25. So because of this underdeveloped brain, it causes risky behaviors, and we all had those situations where we were kids and we think back and it's like, wow, I can't believe I did that, and all. So basically causes risky behavior. So I mean, like it just clearly states that it's just the human brain is not developed until the age of 25. So currently in 14 states, there's no minimum age for trying children, youth, or teens as adults. Children as young as 9-year-old were handcuffed and taken into prison. Well, not serving time, but they were taken in and booked. So basically, after providing the scientific evidence of a person's brain is not fully matured until the age of 25, the dangers in the adult prisons, basically, are we failing our juveniles in our juvenile justice system? And not saying that they should not be punished for it, but it should be a different way to deal with it versus sending them in to a prison with. There's a big difference between a 13, 14-year-old and a 25 and 30-year-old man. And it's pretty much nothing you can do to defend yourself when you're in a prison type environment. So my recommendations, for the next person who plan to do a similar study to this, I would recommend the proper amount of time to collect all the data, and make sure you collect the relevant data, because when you, on this topic, it's a very controversial topic, and when you type in keywords, I mean, a lot of information that you don't need will crop up, So basically, you got to pull out the relevant, I guess, kind of pulling the meat out of the bone or whatever, so get the meat of the story. And I would definitely recommend a case study in this situation. Get out and interview and talk to people and things like that. And know the difference between an adult and juvenile courts. And one of the main differences in the juvenile court system and the adult court system is that juveniles, they see a judge, straight the judge make the decision. If you get a lawyer or you convince the judge not to give you that time. And like I said, it focuses on rehabilitation versus punishment, where the adult prisons have 12 of your peers, you go on trial, they have jurors and all, so I recommend you learn that. And so in my conclusion, I've provided information as far as the dangers in prisons. I was providing examples as far as what can come when you give a juvenile a second chance versus throwing them in prison for the rest of their life. So basically, what I've learned is the different punishments that these kids are going through when they're tried as adults. And basically, as far as my hypothesis is concerned, I think with this presentation I proved my hypothesis, but in reality, I would have to call my hypothesis inconclusive, because there was also a lot of information, whereas people in the United States and in our law that believes that juveniles that commit certain crimes should be charged. And it's just an ongoing battle. I mean, you're going to have to say yes and have to say no. So basically, I would call my hypothesis inconclusive. Now, I had a video I wanted to show. Maybe I can just send it to you. It doesn't. This kind of hits home. I'm not going to let the whole thing play because it's kind of hard for me to watch myself. You want to hit that light for me on? This is basically George Steiny, when I told the youngest kid ever executed in the 20th century. He was executed at the age of 14.
Unto thee, O Lord, do I lift up my soul. O my God, so I trust in thee. Let me not be ashamed. Let not mine enemies triumph over me.
How do you come in and do this? How long is it? Son, you're going to be seeing some things that ain't going to sit too well. When we get home, I got nothing but peach brandy for both of us.
According to thy mercy, remember thou me for thy goodness' sake, O Lord.
like I said, it's hard to watch. I'm gonna go ahead and stop it right there because it's a little graphic. Yeah, it's kind of
Think about it like
tough to watch. All right, so that completes my presentation titled Underage Punishment. Thank you all for your time. Thanks for watching.
Okay.